again, for those who may not have gotten the message yet, tomorrow I'll offer a test drive of the TUMexam system. This is just meant as a, let's say, a tech demo to give you an impression of how that system looks and how it works. I uploaded a little mock exam with just 2 simple problems that you can use, that you can fill in, that you can upload using that system, just to practice, to see how your equipment works with that system, and to get an impression of how that works. You don't have to participate in that. It's completely voluntary, and I will delete all the test data afterwards. So we will correct that exam so that you can also get an idea of how the inspection works later on. But after that, I will completely delete all that data from our systems. So in particular, there is not going to be any bonus or any influence on the end exam whatsoever for this one here. That's just meant as a demonstration in case we have to use the TUMexam system. And we will use that if we have to resort to a remote exam in the end, which looks more and more likely. But again, I'll make the final announcement right after the Christmas break, when we hopefully know more about how the situation will evolve in the coming weeks and months. So I'll start with a quick walkthrough to give you an idea of how the system works. And I'll also talk a little about things that you should better watch out for when using it. Here's an overview of the workflow. And there's basically 2 different workflows that you could use. The one is completely digital, and one uses pen and paper. In both cases, you start by logging into the system. You will receive a URL for that login on TUM Online. So if you registered for the exam, or if you register until tonight at 6 o'clock, I will then copy the exam data from TUM Online into TUMexam. And that will generate a URL that will be available on the TUM Online platform. So you either log in there, or I just make it send out an email to you that contains this URL. You can log in to TUMexam using this URL and your student ID number. You'll also use your student ID number. Oops, student ID. Please remember that you have to use it with leading 0. So at login, it will ask you for your ID number, your Matrikelnummer. Please enter that complete with a leading 0. Once you've logged in, you'll get a list of exams that can be selected. There will only be one at this time. So you select this exam. And once the exam starts, you will then be able to download the exam sheet. So this is how the login looks like. Again, you enter your registration number here. You should then get something that looks like this. It doesn't say test exam, it says test drive, I think, but otherwise it should look similar. That will also show you the period for working on that exam and for submitting your results. When you click on that, you will be able to download the sheet once the exam starts. So before it starts, you should see nothing. After it starts, you should see a link to download the exam sheet. And in the digital workflow, you just transfer that sheet to some tablet or some PC that you can work on with a digital pen. And you just write your solutions directly into the PDF. So that's a PDF that you get. You just write your solutions directly into that sheet. You save that as a PDF again, a multi-page PDF that contains 1 page for each original page that you got. So don't change the pagination, just write down your results and save it as is. And after that, you upload your results to TUMexam once again. The submission website looks a little like this here. There's some instructions. They will also tell you the maximum file size. I think that is currently set to 70 megabytes or so. So be sure to not have excessively large files, please. And you just add your file here. Again, just 1 PDF file, please, and click on upload. And when you do that, either the upload proceeds right away, or if many people at the same time are trying to upload, then you might be queued. If that is the case, just leave your browser open. Just don't touch anything. Don't reload. Just please keep that browser tab open This here will show you your queue position, and then it will refresh automatically. So at some point you're going to be at position 1, and then the upload is going to start. In the end, you'll see this, hopefully, this upload successful window here. And you can barely see that, but below that here, there is an image showing the uploaded exam. So you can quickly scroll through that, see if everything looks good. And if it doesn't, you can submit the exam once again. As I said, there's also a pen and paper workflow that basically has the same beginning and the same end. It differs in the middle. So if you want to use pen and paper, different from a digital pen and paper, of course, then at some point you have to print out that sheet. So after you download, you print the sheet. Then you just write your solutions into that sheet. And in the end, you have to digitize the results once again. So you either scan the sheets that you have, or you take photos. You'll usually use a mobile phone for that. That's the easiest and most reliable solution. There's a number of scanner apps that you can use to produce a multi-page PDF. Or you also have the option of uploading multiple JPEG files. So if you don't use a scanner app that produces a PDF file, then you can also just take photos and upload these individual photos. Otherwise, things work the same. A few notes on software. There's also an extensive list of software in the TUMexam submission manual. I have linked that on our Moodle site already, so you can look all that up there. And there's also a few more notes on the softwares that you can use. Just very few pointers here of software that people have tried in the past and that seems to work well. If you want to go for digital editing, then of course there's a number of solutions for iPad tablets. For example, I'm using GoodNotes, that seems to work well, but there's a number of other apps like Notability. And also, if you don't want to spend any money, the Files app that's built into the iPad system also has editing capabilities that you can use. And that work fine for exam. Yeah, no need to use anything more sophisticated if you don't want to spend money on that. If you're using a Mac computer, there's theoretically, you could also use that, but it's hard to do pen editing on a Mac computer. So you probably not do that. But if you want to do that, there's Preview, but also supports editing. Or you can use third-party software, Foxit Reader. The free version should be sufficient. So again, you don't have to spend any money. That also works on Windows. There's a Windows version of Foxit as well. Again, there's a built-in editing capability here. If you have the Microsoft Edge browser installed, that also has PDF editing capabilities that are sufficient for this type of examination. Or there's also the software called PDF Annotator. I've also used that before when I was on a Windows system, and it worked great, but it comes at a cost, at a substantial cost, I think. If you're going for the pen and paper workflow, then of course you need some kind of scanner app, or you just take photos if you want to use a scanner app. For Android phones, we've had good experiences with Microsoft Office Lens. For iOS, there's a simple scanning solution built in the Notes app. And again, that is absolutely sufficient. You don't have to spend any money there. You can, of course, use other apps as well. Again, there's a more extensive list in the TUMexam submission manual. And there are also some apps that we specifically warn against. And I'd like to mention two. One is the OneNote app. So for digital editing on any platform, iOS, Windows, whatever, please do not use the OneNote app. I'll show you later why. And there's a scanning app that we've had really bad experiences with that is called Cam Scanner. Again, please don't use that. I'll show you an example of that later on to hopefully help you understand why this is a bad idea. So here's some things to watch out for in the scanning or taking photos approach. Of course, all this applies to taking photos as well. When you're scanning or taking photos, make sure that all the page codes are fully on the page and are sharply recognizable. So the page codes are these QR codes here that you can see in the corners. There's more page codes here and here. Please make sure that your scan contains all of those page codes. And please make sure that they're not cut off in any way. So here, for example, that is a little cut off here. And also that's a little bent, so that might be hard to recognize for the system. Actually, it's kind of like this should work, but it's not ideal. Here's an example of CAM scanner. And what you can see is that hopefully that this uses some kind of image optimization technique that makes that whole thing look almost like good old fax. Especially what it does is it blurs these page codes. So page codes that are blurred like this with this post-processing are usually not recognizable by TUMexam anymore. And those page codes need to be recognized by the system so that your exam can be assigned correctly. So this is why you should not use CAM scanner. Of course, if you just take photos, you should also pay attention to the page codes. Yeah, something like this where the page codes are blurred, or here as well, not so well recognizable. That's okay, but the other one is really not very good. Please make sure that the image is really sharp and recognizable. You can take the small writing down here as a reference. If that is still well readable, then you should be good. And finally, if you are taking photos, then please make sure to only photograph one page at a time. Please do not submit any photos that have page codes from more than one page on the same photo, like here. That will completely confuse the system. And that is why we advise against OneNote, because OneNote has the very undesirable property, at least for this TUMexam application here, that it outputs one long page. So if you input a multi-page PDF, it will process that. It will put everything on one page, and you'll receive a PDF that contains all the input pages on one page. So this is actually one page from the OneNote app. And of course, there are multiple page codes on there. So there's no way the system can recognize that anymore. And there's no way we can correct something like this. These are just 3 pages, but imagine a real exam contains like 15 pages or so. Imagine like having 15 pages long, fit on just one A4 page. We can't really work on that. So submissions like that just cannot be accepted. And that's why I advise you to avoid a OneNote. Quick note on the timeline. So as I said, at examination start, you can download the sheet, you can print it or transfer it to some digital solution, tablet or so. Then you have the usual 90 minutes until the examination officially ends. At that point, you should drop your pen and either start the transfer from your digital tablet back to your computer or to TUMexam, or of course you start scanning. As scanning and printing takes some time, you have an extra 15 minutes to do that. From our experiences in the past, that seemed to be sufficient if you actually start at that time and if you gave your equipment a test before, and that's really important. If during these 15 minutes you find out that your scanner is really slow or that your camera needs a long pause after every second page, then you're lost. You should really test that before. If your scanner is really slow, then please make sure you have another solution in place. Okay, so you have these 15 minutes, and given that you have decent technical equipment and tested it before, this should work. By the end of those 15 minutes, you will have to have initiated the upload. If you're still queued at that point, that's fine. The upload doesn't need to complete, but you need to have pressed the upload button and secured your place in the upload queue. After that, we leave some time, usually 45 minutes or so, for all the uploads to complete. And that should be more than sufficient. Right, so that's officially called the upload end. Submission end is the last time you can change your upload as well. So if you find that there have been errors and you'd like to re-upload, you can do that within that time frame. From that point on, no new uploads will be accepted. But you can still complete uploads that you have already started. So that's the timeline. As I said, we do this test drive more as a tech demo, so it doesn't have any kind of consequences other than giving you a chance to get familiar with the system. Again, in case we might use it, that doesn't yet mean that we will, but as I said, the probability is increasing, obviously. So if you want to take part in the test drive, then please register for the exam on TUM Online until tonight at 6 o'clock. I will communicate the login URLs using this registration. So you should keep your registration until you have at least copied that URL. After that, you're free to remove it. So if you actually don't want to take the exam, feel free to deregister afterwards. The exam on TUMexam itself will open tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that means from 8 o'clock on, the exam sheet should be visible and you should be able to download it. You don't have to start at 8 o'clock, of course. You can start at any time. Just if you want to experience the feeling of waiting for the exam sheet to become available, you should be there around 8 o'clock. I'll keep the exam open until 10 o'clock in the evening. So that means at that point, you should stop working and start uploading. And of course, again, you're free to upload it anytime before that. Yeah. So if you'd rather start at 10 and then upload at 11, that's fine. You don't have to bother with these times actually. Submission end will then be 15 minutes after that. So until 22:15, you will have to have your upload started. And by the way, that really means 1500 and 0 seconds. So 22:15 and 0 seconds. At that point, submission will close. Upload end will then be at 11 o'clock. That should be more than sufficient. And of course, the tech demo is primarily meant for you to get acquainted with the system. But of course, it's also interesting for us to see how you're doing and if you have any feedback. So we'll be interested in any experiences, any reports on good or bad experiences using TUMexam. There might still be time to correct bugs if you encounter some. So if there's anything you'd like us to know, then either just use the forum on Moodle, or of course, you are free to contact us in chat as well. Yeah, we'd be interested in any feedback that you can give us. So that concludes what I wanted to say on TUMexam. Again, there is a submission manual available on the Moodle website. So that should contain pretty much all of what I just said. So feel free to read up on that once again. Let's open the floor to questions.
Yeah, there are quite a lot. So the first one is, in case we have a digital exam, you want to use programs like Proctorio, right?
I'm not going, no. No, in case we have a digital exam, it is going to be an open book exam and it's not going to be supervised.
So most of the questions they might have been asked, but just in case.
Let me add one more thing to that. If we're going for the remote option, then that's going to be the only option. So if we go in for the remote option, it's not going to be an on-site exam in parallel to that. And that's the reason why we have to do this unsupervised. Otherwise, we would have to offer a parallel on-site exam, and that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, as I said, like there might be questions that they are already answered, but just in case, I will read all of them. Can we print it, fill it out by hand, and then scan and upload it? This was already answered. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
If we upload the PDF, is it fine if we have one exercise per page? So if there are 8 questions, 8 pages, or is there a space for writing in between the tasks?
There's always space for writing your answers right after the questions. And usually it's 1 question per page, unless you need less space for that. But you will see that on the exam sheet. So the exam sheet that I provided for you, it contains just 2 problems. So it's a lot shorter than a real exam would be, but otherwise it's fairly typical.
What happens if we are in the upload queue and hence upload when the time limit has passed?
So once you're in the upload queue, your upload will be processed. Those 45 minutes that we have for processing all the queued uploads is enough, believe me. If it's not, then we'll extend that. But it has always worked. Usually it doesn't take longer than 10 minutes or so to process all the uploads.
Another question, it says, is there a time limit?
For the exam. So yeah, for the real exam, yes, 90 minutes plus 15 minutes for printing, scanning, uploading. For the exam tomorrow, the time limit is 10 o'clock in the evening plus 15 minutes for printing, scanning, uploading. So the last upload we'll accept needs to be started at 2214 minutes and 59 seconds, no later than that.
Do we have to register for this exam, MA 9711M?
So if you want to register for the test drive, then please register for the exam on TUM Online, and the exam should be called MA 9711M. Yes, the M is from Munich. So the idea is that if you're going for an on-campus option, you can choose to do that in Munich. That's the M option, or there'll probably also be an exam offered at Straubing campus. That will be the S option. I'm only going to take the M data for the test drive. So please register for that. And if you don't actually want to take it, feel free to deregister after the 22nd once we have passed this test drive.
The next question is, do you know Dropboard on PDF and know whether it's okay to use it? And I'll write it in the Zoom chat.
I don't actually know that software. Basically, any software that doesn't modify the page layout is fine. So you get this multi-page PDF as a download. Any software that just adds any writing to that, any graphics to that, and doesn't modify the layout, as OneNote does, for example, that should be fine. And I don't know Drawboard, unfortunately. But just give it a try, see if it works, and then share your experiences with us.
When will the exam tomorrow start?
At 8 o'clock, Munich time.
So
But you should be able to log in earlier. So I'll transfer there sometime tonight, and after that you should be able to log in. You just won't see the exam sheet before 8 o'clock tomorrow.
But if they want to take it, like for instance at 10, it's also possible, right? I
Yes,
mean,
you can take it anytime between 8 o'clock and 10 in the evening. So from 8 o'clock on, you can download the exam sheet, and from that point on, you can download and submit anytime until 10:15 at night. So free to choose any time that is suitable for you. You don't have to start at 8. You don't have to be finished. You have to be finished by 10, but that doesn't mean you have to upload at 10. You can upload any time before that.
So what is recommended for Windows users, if not OneNote, if I want digital editing?
So for Windows, if you want digital editing, I would suggest giving the Edge browser a try. That works surprisingly well.
What happens if your internet breaks down or reload after you've submitted and the time for submission is over?
So if you manage to submit your exam, if you manage to press the upload button until submission ends, so until examination time plus 15 minutes, and the internet breaks down after that, then you can start the upload once again until those 45 extra minutes have passed, of course. If you did not change the exam, it will still be accepted. So what happens basically is once you submit that, your computer computes a digital fingerprint and uploads that first. And once the server has that digital fingerprint, you kind of have secured your place in the queue. And even if you then restart the upload later, it will still be accepted if you didn't change anything, if the fingerprint still is the same.
What is the exam called again in TUM Online?
The exam should be registered under this module number here, so MA9711M. It's called Mathematics in Science and Economics 1 or Mathematische Behandlung der Natur- und Wirtschaftswissenschaften 1. Same as the lecture.
How do
That's,
we?
sorry, that's the one, that's the exam that you would actually register for if you wanted to take the real exam as well.
How do we register for this exam?
Just log into TUMonline. You should find exam registration there. There should be some tutorial videos about TUMonline or some TUMonline manuals. There's a help button on TUMonline. Just click on that if you need help. That should get you to a page of tutorials where you can hopefully find information about how to register for the exam. I can't show you that because I don't have that view. I'm not a student anymore in TUMonline.
Is the actual time limited, or do we have 14 hours time for the exam?
So for the test drive tomorrow, you will have all of these 14 hours. For the actual exam, of course, the time will be limited more severely. We'll do 90 minutes plus upload 15 minutes.
Okay, well, here maybe I have a question myself. Like, I mean, in these 14 hours, once they start the exam, do they also have like this 90 plus 15?
No.
Or is it like they could start at 10 a.m. and finish it at 10 p.m.?
Yes. So
Okay.
what is set is the start time. The exam will be visible from 8 o'clock in the morning. That's when the download is visible. And the other limit is 10:15. That's the upload limit. You need to have started the upload by that time, otherwise it won't be accepted anymore. Whatever you do in between is up to you. You can start working on the exam at 11, then recommence after you had lunch at 2, and then finally upload it like at 6 in the evening. That's fine for tomorrow, not for the real exam.
In the real exam, how many minutes are there approximated per question? Points.
So the real exam will probably have 80 points for 90 minutes. So that's approximately 1 point per minute plus about 10 minutes extra time.
What if we need more place to write our computations? Can we add an additional sheet?
No, you can't add an additional sheet. You just have to make do with the place that you have. One thing I should mention is, in case there's no possibility for you to print the pages of the exam sheet, and in case you don't have capabilities for digital editing, there is also a possibility of working with prepared sheets in the real exam, also in this one, but it's probably not relevant tomorrow. On the Moodle page, you'll find a PDF that contains, I think, 20 or 25 pages that you can print before the actual exam takes place. And you can then use these pages in place of the real printed exam if you want to. That download also contains about a page of instructions, how to use that you should read thoroughly. So if you want to go for that option, please just download that, read the instructions on the first page, and then you can make an informed decision about whether this is the right way for you. Yeah, but mainly that's meant for people who don't have electronic editing capabilities and who don't have access to a printer or scanner or mobile phone. No, you need a mobile phone. You need a scanner, of course, still. No access to a printer.
So after the download tomorrow, we have 14 hours to calculate the exercises, or just 90 minutes?
You'll have 14 hours until you have to upload your results.
What is the time we should be able to solve the questions tomorrow? Like, what would be recommended? What would be the recommended time to take for the 2 questions tomorrow?
I have no idea. I haven't given those tests, right? It shouldn't take you too long, I suppose.
Just to make sure, if we work completely digitally, we shouldn't append any papers to the PDF, right?
You should not change the PDF in any way other than filling out anything. Yeah, so don't append anything. Don't change the page layout. Also, please don't use PDF comment capabilities or something like that. So with some PDF editors, you can add comments or like post-its, virtual post-its. Please don't use that. Problem here is TUMexam will process the PDF as images. And these comments will not be visible if you open the PDF normally. It will just become visible when you click on them. And TUMexam is not doing that. So anything you want us to correct needs to be visible as image in the PDF.
What are the topics of tomorrow's questions?
I think it's just game theory. I'm I'm not quite sure about the second question anymore. Yeah, but I think it was just game theory. I prepared that a week ago. I forgot.
We do have to register for both separately, right? The real exam and the test drive tomorrow.
So the registration for the test drive is the same as that for the real exam. So if you also want to take the real exam, just register for that and you'll also be on the test drive. If you just want to be on the test drive, please register for the real exam now. And once the test drive has been completed after December 22nd, feel free to delete your registration.
Is there a suggested time in which we should be able to solve the exam tomorrow? This was already.
No, there is no suggested time.
Is there a link where we can log into TUMexam, or is it in TUM Online?
For the exam upload, I presume. So the exam upload is only happening on TUMexam. The link to that will be distributed using TUM Online. So that's why I need the exam registration. I'll distribute the upload link or the TUMexam access link using your TUMexam registration. The info will be available there when you log into TUM Online, again, sometime tonight. I first have to process the registrations. And TUM Online will also send out an automated email once I publish that access link. So sometime tonight, you should get an email with that link. But otherwise, it's all on TUMexam. That's the only thing I need TUM Online for.
There are no more questions.
Wonderful. So then again, if you have any feedback for us after tomorrow's TUMexam test drive, then please let us know. Just use the forums, use chat, or write an email. If you have any feedback concerning this course in general, again, the evaluation is still open. Today is the last day, so we would appreciate your feedback a lot. This is the last official class before Christmas, so I wish you all a happy Christmas, happy holidays. Hopefully with some time to relax as well, and some time to maybe catch up on the topics that you might have missed. We'll continue after Christmas and after the new year. So the next lesson in this course will take place on the 7th of January. That's a Thursday. So we'll go on right away after the holidays with the tutorials on Thursday. And then on the following Monday, that should be the 11th, I think, we'll go on with the central exercise class. Then on sheet number 8. So again, happy holidays, happy new year. Hopefully a more enjoyable new year than this last one was for most of us. And I hope to see you next year then.